Hi everyone, welcome to TGIF, another Friday, another episode. If you're a ChatGPT user, I'm sure you've noticed the fact there's also a ChatGPT Plus. Sometime back, OpenAI announced the plugin model. And the plugin model is a wonderful concept where you bring in recency information to the model for conversation to be real and meaningful. In today's episode, we're going to focus on plugins. It's my pleasure to welcome Srikanth Shankaran, Senior MTC Technical Architect, for a short conversation. Srikanth, welcome to TGIF.
Yeah, thanks Sandeep. Happy to see you again.
Wonderful. So quickly, Srikanth, we spoke offline. You've over the weekend has played with plugins. You build a plugin. So before we get there, quick question. Let's kind of double click. What is a plugin?
Sure. Like you said, I mean, when people are already using ChatGPT is so popular, and the fact that you want the ability to extend the reach of ChatGPT to third-party applications.
Right.
So you could have a developer team who would have built a API, and then you want to bring the functionality there. It could be just about accessing data, or it could also be posting some information to that.
Right.
How do you actually bring the reach of those applications to ChatGPT? And that's what plugins.
Perfect. That means, see, as large language model, they don't have arms and legs. There's no way to go and fetch information. So plugin is a wonderful concept to bring that information to the model, so that reasoning can happen.
Exactly.
Right? Perfect. So quickly, I'm sure there's a method to how we can build a plugin, right? I'm sure OpenAI announced certain specification in terms of for developers, how do we build plugin? So talk us through what does it take for them to build a plugin?
Yeah, in fact, conceptually, all that it needs is that whatever functionality that needs to be plugged in has to be exposed through the OpenAPI compliant REST API protocol. So all you need is a Swagger definition which describes those APIs. And on top of that, for the ChatGPT to understand that it's a plugin, you need to have a manifest file. It sort of describes what the Swagger is about. It also actually describes, it's very essential to have description of what the API does, because the application or ChatGPT, is the input to it is just natural language prompts from you and I.
Correct.
It has to be able to understand for the question being asked, I need to call this particular plugin because it is meant to do that. So which is why the manifest file is important. It describes, when and how it's meant to be used, what are the different APIs it provides, so that at runtime it figures out automatically through various engines. Of course, ChatGPT has, for example, we heard of semantic kernel, LangChain. So they have this planner component there, which can actually take the user prompt and then interpret, looking at the different plugins. See, I think I need to call this as opposed to calling something else. So it translates those into actual API invocations and passing those parameters extracted from the natural language prompts, and then makes those calls happen. And then for you, it's an sort of a seamless experience. You just make those calls, and then magically the third-party API is called, and then the response is there right in front of you.
Perfect. That means in real time, the large language model will decipher using the manifest file, of course.
Yes.
Whom to call and for what information to be fetched.
Exactly.
Wonderful. Yes. I think that's pretty cool, because we always question in terms of, hey, how does a model get information? Of course, we've gone to the extent of grounded the model on enterprise data or custom data, but this is a whole new game in terms of API being leveraged to bring information into the model.
Exactly.
Right? Awesome.
Yeah, another key point which I want to convey is that, see, with plugins, so you could also build this as a part of a core application. I can have ChatGPT built with the integration to my third-party application. But let's say this integration is required by many ChatGPT plus applications. We are taking an example of ChatGPT here. That's one place we go to. But then in an enterprise, I would actually build my own custom Copilot chat application. That also implements the same protocols. And then how do I repackage so that not all of those applications need to implement the same functionality again and again. So they can encapsulate that as a plugin and host it in a marketplace, and then each of those applications can actually invoke the same plugin and then leverage the data that it provides and functionality it provides.
Brilliant. In fact, Srikanth, we have seen the Microsoft Copilot stack. At the topmost layer was plugin extensibility, and pretty much you're referring to that particular layer, which will help us infuse this plugin model into custom Copilots that we build.
Yeah, exactly.
Is it the similar concept with the Copilot we're seeing in, let's say, MTC Bengaluru and Dynamics and let's say Fabric for that matter, the same plugin model being adopted there as well?
Yeah, in fact, at Microsoft, we have taken the conscious decision to abide by the open specification that OpenAI has spelled out for these plugins. And then whatever plugins that we'll support will be based on the same specifications, which means they'll be truly interoperable. If it works in ChatGPT, I can actually come to Microsoft 365 and add this particular plugin. It'll just work there. Or it could be the Bing chat that we know of. It'll actually light up there as well. So you build it once, and then then it can be accessed across multiple such applications. And like you asked, Microsoft 365 Copilot, or it could be Bing Chat as well. So I can have those plugins visible there as well.
Awesome. I think again, Ritual, we got to see it a little bit. So quick demo would help Srikantan.
Sure. Let's
let's do that. Okay.
The ChatGPT plugin. This implements a dummy e-commerce website. It gives some APIs which helps users to search products by category, in price, and search products by name. It is implemented as a function app, and presently it is running locally on web machine. You'll notice that apart from the REST APIs that it implements for the various functions, it also has a manifest file for the ChatGPT plugin. I just wanted to show you that, show you what this a plugin manifest looks like. In fact, it contains a description, the name and description of this particular plugin, because it has to be discoverable on the marketplace where it is pushed to. And it also needs to carry a description of the plugin, what functions it exposes, because the caller or ChatGPT application which is going to call this needs to be aware of the various functions and features that it provides when it gets run and invoked by the user. Imagine we have pushed this function app into Azure and it is running. So let's move to that. So now let me take a look at the manifest file just to make sure everything is fine. Yeah, I think it looks okay. And let me also take a look at the Swagger definition. Okay, so I think it looks okay. So the next step for me is to consume this in a ChatGPT application. Of course, what I have here is a custom Copilot chat application. In fact, the source code for this is available in GitHub repository. And I have just deployed this to my Azure subscription. So now, if you look at the plugins tab here, you see that it comes with a lot of default plugins which I can integrate with. But now I want to integrate with the plugin which I just deployed as a function app. So let me go ahead and. So now it has verified that indeed it is a valid OpenAI add-in manifest. So let me say add the plugin now. Once that is done, I still as a user need to go down here and say I want to enable this from my access. So with that, let me go ahead and create a new chat session here. And so I'm going to ask it some question. So this application uses semantic kernel, and it uses the planner in semantic kernel. So what the planner does is it takes the natural language input from the user, and then it looks at all the plugins that have been registered, looks at their manifest and their description to determine which is the one that is appropriate for the need here. And here, because I just completed the step of registering it into this application, it's able to discover the fact that there is one plugin which can be used to respond to my request. So here I have the option to verify indeed that the request is going through the way I expected. And then I click on yes, proceed. And then now it should hand off and actually invoke that action on the test API. And very shortly, I should see the responses. And in fact, you see that because I had asked you to respond in bullet point formats, it keeps that in mind. And then it gets a response and then properly formats it based on how I actually require it.
Srikantan, fabulous demo. I think, literally, I think you lit up that application with information which came in from an API. Of course, as you rightly said earlier, these are meant for conversation-based endpoints like ChatGPT or Copilot that we're talking about. So how do we enable or equip Copilot with information source, and that information source is brought into the model by plugins? Right?
Yes.
Awesome. Perfect. So for all viewers today, thanks for watching us today. As we heard from Srikantan, the future is plugins. That's the way for conversation agents to bring recency and meaningful information for conversation to be reality going forward. So with that, thanks for watching us today. Keep watching TGIF. Have a wonderful Friday. A great weekend ahead. Bye-bye.
Bye.